States in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. I don't know what part of that we don't get anymore. That was written by men who cared about this country deeply.
Financial Issues with Dan Celia.
Welcome back. We're going to get to the phones. 866-300-9298. 866-300-9298. You're listening to American Family Radio Network. Of course, this is Dan Celia, Financial Issues. We're here every day from 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock Central Time. It's great to be here. We are going to get back to the phones, 866-300-9298. Let me go to Wesley. Wesley's calling us from Virginia. Hey, Wesley.
How you doing?
Good.
Good. Yes, sir. I was going to ask you, what do you think about this Iraqi dinar investment? Do you think it will revalue, and if so, when?
Well, that's a good question. Do I think it will revalue? Yes, it definitely will at some point in time. I would suspect that at some point in time that the government, at least it looks as though the government at some point in time, and I don't know when, it's years away in my opinion, but the government could get its act together to the point of reissuing the currency. But when I say revalue, I don't mean the way that the investors think. I think if it revalues and when it revalues, if you own one of the old dinaras, you will likely turn in, 100 of them to get one of the new ones. It's not going to be like the scam that everybody thinks it is, that it's going to revalue one for one. That would be mathematically an impossibility. I got an email from someone who said, well, you're wrong about that. I guess we'll see who's right. And this has happened over the years. And do you know that one time the dinar was valued at such and such, the Iraqi dinar? What the writer didn't know is that the amount of dinar that is in circulation today is the compared to where it was when it was valued at what he said it was valued at. That was 1/10. Or no, I'm sorry, not 1/10. It was under 1% of how much is in circulation today. So you talk about running printing presses full steam ahead. It is not. There is no full faith and credit. If the Iraqi government revalued one for one with a new currency, they would immediately be rated as junk. They're going to be rated as junk. So the question is, are they going to be okay with that, being rated as junk? No, they're not. It's not going to happen. So it's, and I shouldn't say it's not going to happen. Anything's possible. I could be wrong. I definitely could be wrong. And I just think it's extremely unlikely that it's going to go in that. So just in case I'm wrong, if you want to throw $500 at it and say, well, that's $500. If I lose it, I lose it. Then fine. Play that hedge that I may be wrong. But I wouldn't say, I think Dan's going to be wrong, so I'm going to go mortgage my home and I'm going to put $20,000. Don't do that. But if you want to throw some money at it with the idea that I could be wrong, then, that's fine. So that's what I think about it. And I just talk about it from a mathematical standpoint and a currency standpoint of where it was, where it is today, how much is in circulation, how many actual dollars are in circulation, the full faith and credit, the oil revenues that they have, the import-export deficits that they have, and you start adding it up and it doesn't add up. So that's where I am on that. But great question, Wesley. I appreciate it because I know a lot of people are thinking the very same thing. Let me go to Doug. Doug is calling us from North Carolina. Hey, Doug.
Hi, Dan. Glad to talk to you.
Thank you.
I worked 21 years for a major beverage company, which I've left a few years back, and I had a pension plan with them. It's up to approximately $50,000, and they recently sent us a letter saying that we had the opportunity to either leave it with them until we retire, or we could take it out early and put it in an IRA or take a lump sum. I'm currently 51 years old, and my wife and I are out of debt. We don't owe for anything. And so I'm thinking I wanted to just leave it with them until I retire, which I plan on doing, whenever I'm turned 65 or whatever. But what are your thoughts on that?
Well, great question, Doug. First of all, I think you're thinking along the right lines. But let me ask you this. So is it a defined benefit plan? In other words, is it an old pension plan that is going to give you X amount of dollars per month, as a pension for the rest of your life?
Yes, sir.
I would keep it where it is.
Okay.
I mean, they would love for you to take it. They're trying to get out from under these defined pension plans for a number of reasons. And, they would like to get out from under it and give you a, lump sum benefit. You're one of the few people. You're in the minority. Most people say, I'm going to take the lump sum and run. You're doing the right thing. I think that, we've got to be income minded, not doing something, because if we take the lump sum, we may do something that, expose it to the market and we could lose half of it. And, chances are on those defined benefit plans, the way it's going to work, Doug, and I say this for all of our listeners, one of the things that's unique about those defined pension plans, when you look at the revenue, in other words, you look at the income that you're going to receive on a regular basis, chances are it's almost going to be impossible for you to get the kind of return on the lump sum that you would get every month by leaving it. So I like the idea of leaving it. I think that's wise. If it's one of the big two beverage companies, which I'm just going to assume that it is, then the odds of them going anywhere are slim to none. They're strong financially, and obviously they've got great forward momentum. So I'd leave it be.
Okay, sounds good. Well, that's our plan. And I really appreciate what you're doing, and God bless you.
Thank you, Doug. I appreciate that. And I'm glad you're thinking the way you're thinking. Good stuff. 866-392-98. Let me go to Joyce. Joyce calling us from Oklahoma. Hey, Joyce.
Yes, I'm curious. If you're talking about a fiat currency and the fact that the Obamacare is asking for everyone to sign up, spending a lot of money to ask for everyone to sign up for Obamacare, isn't that fiat currency? Those people that are signing up are kind of donating their money, not only to pay for the advertisement to sign up, but also to be taken from later.
Yes, I guess, in the sense that
there's no currency passed.
So anyway, yeah, those folks signing up, I mean, it's different, a little bit different than what you're looking at it as you're getting something without any cash exchanging hands. Is that how you're framing that? Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, it's similar. I mean, it is, it's not really, I mean, basically it's more of an entitlement a program in that you are signing up and, getting this government program without you paying for it in some cases. And, so what that does is it contributes to the debt of America, which is contributing to the reason why we need to print money, the reason why we need to print more money, because it's contributing to that debt. It is one of the things, and it's why I said, Joyce, that some years ago when this bill was being entertained and wasn't voted on yet, why I said that it is going to be the final nail in the economic coffin of the nation, because it is creating, and I was strictly looking at the cost to create 132 more government bureaucracies, buildings, employees, all those kinds of things, and the cost of healthcare in general, by looking at Medicare and Medicaid to the government. So, it was going to create this enormous amount of debt. And we can't afford to create debt. We've got enough that we're creating through our irrational spending. Now we don't need to add to it. So that's the big issue for me. So yes, I mean, it is contributing, no doubt about it. And now we've got, the government talking about spending, millions and millions of dollars on an advertising campaign. So government spending means you and I are now, our taxpaying dollars are buying advertising on TV for people to sign up. Look, and there is some protest about that, but it's going to happen. You can count on it. It's not a battle that's going to win. They're going to win because remember that ultimately we talk about defunding Obamacare, which would certainly have everybody standing back and taking another hard look at this. But aside from that, this whole program, Obamacare, whether it's a law been held up by the Supreme Court, none of that matters. The whole program fails if people don't go into the exchanges. It's done. It's over with. It can't exist. It won't survive. There is no plan. There is no program. So if the state exchanges don't get, 50 million in short order people on it, then the system's going to fail. But here's the beauty for the far left that want a single payer system eventually, because that's what this is. It's leading up to that. It's going to create that. They don't have to put in legislation to have a single payer system. This is a single payer system. It's just going to take 4 or 5 years to kick in. Single payer meaning we're socialized medicine, and that's all medicine is. All the insurance companies are out of business. All the hospitals, they're all on salary. All the doctors are on salary. Everybody works for the government, single payer system. That's where we're headed. And by the way, when that happens, the doctors, the hospitals, and the insurance companies deserve everything they get. Their loss of their freedoms, the loss of their private sector, the loss of their free market, all of that thing, they deserve it because they didn't have the brains or the convictions to have any kind of leadership whatsoever to stand up against this. So they deserve it. They bought into the system without having the brains to see the unintended consequence of what was really happening. So they deserve it. I don't feel a little bit sorry for them. I feel sorry for the American people, but not for those companies, even though I am a free market guy. So you're on the right track. I mean, it is that, and that's what it's doing. It's creating more debt. And remember, when we have interest rates that become a little bit more normalized, any nickel adding to the debt is going to create huge problems for the debt because it's going to add huge problems for interest that we're paying to support that debt. Right now, it's just a mere $400 billion. But if it goes up to 4%, it's going to be $1 trillion a year just in interest that we're going to be adding to the trillions of dollars worth of debt. And it will be an impossible, unsustainable system. And we're real close to it. Let me go to Bob in Kansas. Hey, Bob.
Hello. I appreciate your advice, and I like your program. I guess I wanted to ask you what your opinion was on a while back. Unfortunately, I got into this inflation-protected securities fund, which has gone nowhere but down, and I'm just wondering if it'd be I know you've been saying sell bonds for some time, but it would be a good idea to get out of it at a loss now, or just hold on to it and hope it sometime comes up, or what would be the best strategy now?
Yeah, that's a tough one, Bob. But I would say if you've suffered your loss on it, I'd probably keep it. The reason I say that is, and there's not too many bonds that I would say that about, or bond funds I would say that about. But since you own it, you've had own it. I think that there will be a day, it could even be this year, by the end of this year, there will be a day where you may hear me say, I've added on inflation-protected security back onto my buy list. There may be a day where we could see a movement into that. Look, Bob, no matter what, and it depends on what your timing is, but if you've got a few years, no matter what, we will be headed into inflation. I mean, we're going to see inflation come in. It's just a matter of time. It is unavoidable. It can't. It's where we are today is just not sustainable. We're going to see inflation. Now, when you look at the Japanese model of their economy for the last 14 years, you could argue with me on that point. But my position on the argument, because the argument would be, well, look at Japan. They've been doing it. Printing money. They make us look like we don't even have printing presses compared to how they print money. And, they've done it without inflation. Just keep in mind, we are a consumer-driven economy. Japan is an export-driven economy. They are two totally different animals. And to compare our economy to Japan is a huge mistake. So Japan printing money, deflating their dollar, actually increases their competitiveness. It actually is good for an economy that is depending on having good competitive prices so that they can export more goods. It's actually a good thing for them. It's not a good thing for their worker, for their people, but it's a good thing for them. So it's not for us. It destroys our economy because we're 71% based on consumers. So having said that, I think that at this point, if you've got 5-6 years, you can hang on to it, and it's not an enormous portion. If it's more than like 50% of your portfolio, then I might cut it back to 25%. I wouldn't sell out of it altogether. But, I mean, I would hang on to it because they're going to come back up. They have to at some point in time. So I would hang on to them at this point, Bob. Thanks. And by the way, folks, we're going to break. We'll get back. We'll go to the phones. I'm not making a case to buy TIPS, inflation-protected bonds funds. That's not what I'm making a case for. I am for Bob because he already owns them. He's taking a hit. If he's got some time, you might as well hang in at this point. You're listening to American Family Radio Network Financial Issues. I'm Dan Celia. We're going to get back to the phones, 866-300-9298.
The